They say, if you don't design your life plan, chances are you will fall into someone else's plan, and guess what they have planned for you? Not much. This message comes to inspire, to motivate, and encourage you to discover your God-given potential and plan your life so you can live the life of your dreams. And now, here is Faith.
What a beautiful, beautiful day to be alive, to be here at the Spirit FM studios to speak into your life. Thank you so much for listening to the Live Your Dreams radio program. My name is Faith Nasali Anguzu, and I'm excited. I'm happy to be back here to encourage you, to speak words of encouragement, wisdom into your life, to motivate you, to nudge you into your dreams, to tell you that it is possible, chisoboka, that regardless of what has happened in our country, in the world, in your life, it is possible that you can get back up and still live your dreams. And today I would like to speak to you about failure. You know, how failure is not the last nail in the coffin of your life. You know, we all fail in life. In fact, I'm going to tell you a story about one of my failures in life. But I know when you're going through a failure in life, when you're going through a season of distress in your life that looks like failure, we seem to think that it's the end of our lives and nothing good can ever come out of the situation. And I'll tell you my story. I've been privileged to work in different places, really nice companies, organizations, and made some good money. But there was a time in my career and where I was working, it wasn't going so well. It was too much politics in the organization, and I couldn't just take it. And I decided to say, you know what, let me leave for the sanity, for my own sanity and for my health. Let me just walk away in peace and just live my life. God will provide. God will give me something else to do. And when I walked away from this place, that seemed to be like a failure on my part, because I didn't sit it out, because there were these challenges. But I was like, you know what? I know God can do something with my life somewhere else. So I walked away and, served my notice and just went home. So a man of God tells me, you know what? There's something, if you have land, you can do paper, you can plant paper and export it. There's a big market in Europe, and you're going to make a lot of money. And I mean, it looked very good. And indeed, it was good, because there were people who were making money out of it. There were people who were working and, selling all these papers and exporting different vegetables to Europe and making lots of money. So the deal was really good. The deal was good. The word was perfect. So I get to meet a lady who shares with me a proposal and says, this is how we can do it, and we are going to, work on this project together. I'll help you, and, I will help you make this project succeed, and you make the money. So I give her the money. We start the business, the seedlings, planting the nursery beds, and, we had an uncultivated land. We open up the ground. We prepare it for our, peppers that we are growing for exports to Europe to make a lot of money. To cut the very long story short, it all did not work out the way I envisioned it. And partly because maybe I did not get myself ready for what I was getting myself into. I did not do due diligence on what I was getting myself into. I didn't know what I was doing, basically. I didn't have the knowledge that I really needed to do what I was doing. And it's easy to blame everyone else for your failures, but this is something that much as there was a bit of someone cheating me here and there, that I really take some of the blame for the project not working out. So the long story short is that project took a lot of my money and time, and it never worked. And that day that I decided to walk away from that place, I looked at it as a failure in my life, a failure in my how could I misplace my time, my energy, my money in something that has not worked? I felt so terrible, because at that point I had really put so much of my time into this farming project that I'd even lost contact of my networks in the corporate world. Everyone was running, where is Faith? And people did not know where Faith was. Everyone I was there, I would maybe chance to meet on social media. I would be telling them, I'm doing farming, and they'll be like excited for me. But it's only me who knew the hardships I was going through to make this garden, bring forth fruit. So the long story short is that I failed in that area. I did not get what I wanted to get. It was a disaster. I had to make up a decision. In fact, my husband used to tell me, Faith, are you sure this is what you want to do? Are you sure this is really what you want to do with your time? You can go back and get another job. You can go back and, find something else. But he kind of did not believe that this is my calling to do the farming. He did not. He just didn't tell me in a very emphatic, like, get out of the farming, go back to work. But he gave me a chance to experience the failure firsthand, and then wake up and say, okay, Biganya, it has jammed. Let me go back to do what I know how to do. So the farm failed, and that day I realized that it had jammed. I walked away from that farm, and I told myself I'll not go back. And I didn't go back for, I think, like a year to that place. I would just call and keep in touch with whoever was taking care of the land, and I didn't want to know. I was tired. I felt so terrible. But the good thing that came out of this failure in my life was that I was able to take responsibility for my actions, responsibility for my decisions. When we fail in life, if we don't get to that point where you're like, you know what, let me take responsibility for my decisions and see where did I not make good judgment, and then how could I do it better? Then let me make different decisions and see if something different can come out. When you don't get to that point, it's hard to learn from failure. And that's why I'm telling you this story, and that's why I really want us to talk about failure, how you can find strength and purpose in failure. So I go back home and I sit home, literally sit home for a full month, doing nothing but just praying and sometimes feeling sad, having my own pity parties, and but one day a breakthrough happened, because I had made up my mind. I said, okay, let me go back and do what I know how to do best. Let me go back and do that. So one day I go to the bank. I was running a transaction in the bank, and I meet a gentleman I used to work with back then, and he asked me, oh, Faith, how are you? What's up? Where are you now? And that feeling of you don't know how to say I'm not working because you're embarrassed, and but I'm like, okay, I'm doing nothing really. I was farming, and really nothing's happening. He's like, okay, there is this company and they need somebody, please call so and so. So he gives me this person's number to call, and this is someone I had worked with before. And I call the lady, and she's like, okay, bring your CV. Long story short, in 2 weeks I was back to work. But because I went through that phase of the farming not working, because of my own bad judgment and the different things that happened along the way, and maybe I didn't stick it out. I don't know. Maybe it could have. I don't know if it could have worked if I insisted. But I decided to say, okay, let me put this failure behind me and move on. Let me put this failure behind me and do something that I'm confident I can do better than being a farmer. Let me do something that I know, even if you woke me up at 6 a.m., 5 a.m., 4 a.m., when I'm in deep sleep, I know I can do it with excellence. I went back to it. Of course, when I went back to work, I wasn't earning the money that I thought I would earn. When you have your qualifications and you think, oh, because I have this, I have to earn that. I put all that behind me, and I said, you know what? The point is to get myself into the building. How I will progress, it will depend on what I do with my skills, with my talents, with how I work. Then I will move up. So failure is not the end of the world. Failure, if you failed, say, in a marriage, if you failed in a business, if you failed in a relationship, if you failed in maybe something you're doing, it's not the end of the world. I've read stories of people who have come to a point when they've hit rock bottom. They have got to a point where things have failed, maybe because they are the ones who contributed 100% to the situation, and nothing good can ever come out of there. But God, in his mercy, in his love, in his wisdom, always picks us up. And he has shown how he has picked up these people. I remember the story of David at Ziklag. David was, at this time he had not yet been crowned king, but he had some men around him who were in distress and in debt, and they were depending on his leadership to help them get out of these situations. And while they were fighting, the Philistines fighting them on every side, the Philistines come and raid their camp, and they take everything. They take their wives, they take their children, they take their property. In fact, at this time, David was already a king. He was already a king. They take everything, and David was like a failure as a leader at that point, because everyone was looking at him and wondering, how could this even happen to us? If you're a good leader, how could we end up in this situation? And they thought of stoning him. David cried until there was nothing left. The Bible says there was nothing left in him to cry anymore. And then he said, you know what? Let me encourage myself in the Lord. Let me encourage myself in the Lord and see whether this situation can turn around. This failure can turn around. He did not bring it on himself. It was basically an enmity between the Israel camp and the Philistines, and these guys found them when the guys had gone out, and they took over everything. So it wasn't because he hadn't done what he was supposed to do, but he prayed to God. He said, Lord, should I go and I pursue them or not? And at that time, the medium with which they were using to speak to God, the ephod, he got the word that he should go and pursue the Philistines. And when he went to pursue the Philistines, the Bible says that they got back everything. They got back their wives, they got back their children, and everything, every property that had been taken from their camp, they were able to get it back. You know, there are so many stories in the Bible that show us how people go through failure. When you look at the story of Samson, my goodness, that story, sometimes you even feel like, Samson, what were you thinking? What were you thinking? To go and to give her your secret of your strength to this woman, Delilah. What were you thinking? You know? And many times we make such bad judgment as well. We cannot condemn Samson. We all make this bad judgment sometimes, you know? So Samson went through a trying moment because of his weakness. He let down his guards. This woman convinced him and said, if you love me, tell me the secret of your strength. And on 2 occasions, I think he was lying to her. And then finally he gave in. And when Delilah confirmed that when I cut off these locks, the story is in the book of Judges, that when I cut off these locks, his strength will be gone. She convinced him to sleep on his lap, and when he was sleeping, enjoying, Delilah got scissors and cut off the locks. Because Samson's strength was in his locks. He was a Nazarite, yes. His strength was in his locks. Because his hair had never been cut, that's where the power that he had in his arm. Samson could fight 1,000 Philistines all by himself. He had so much strength. You can read about his story in the book of Judges. But the moment the locks were cut, the moment his hair was cut, his strength gone. And that was a terrible disaster. That was a terrible disaster in his life. Of course, the Philistines were so happy. They were like, oh, we've got our enemy right in our hands. So Delilah tells them, the man is here, come and take him. And at that point, he thinks he's going to do something and, wake up and fight them. Nothing. Strength gone. Strength gone. So Samson was taken through grueling moments. They gouged out his eyes. They made him work so hard. Of course, they were revenging on him because he had killed their people. He had killed the Philistines. But Samson prayed and said, God, give me back my strength. And while he was working hard for the Philistines, his hair began to grow. It began to grow. It grew back. And when it grew back, his strength came back. He found strength in failure. It was his mistake, yes, but he still said, God, give me back my strength. And unfortunately, he had to die with his enemies. But God did not leave him in that moment. In fact, the Bible says Bible says in Second Corinthians chapter 12, I think it's chapter 12, verse 10, that when I am weak, you make me strong, that I glory in my weaknesses. I glory in my weaknesses, in my infirmities, in my distress. That's where I find strength. In this context, Paul had a thorn in his flesh. I don't know what it was, but there's something that he was praying to God and saying, God, take this away, take this away, take this away. And Jesus told him, my strength is made perfect in your weakness. My strength is made perfect in your weakness. So wherever you are, whatever weakness it is, it could be a weakness, a failure that has led you into weakness, a weakness that's working, something that is working against you. It's something that you feel like you have failed at in life. I want to encourage you this day to find strength in God, to get up and not cry and feel like that is the end of the world and I don't want you to even think of that day when you're going to be buried, because you have so many years ahead of you, so many years. But until there is no breath in your body, there is hope. There is hope. There is hope. There is hope. I want to encourage you, regardless of the failure you've had to go through in life, lost money, lost business, lost family, you can still regroup. You can still re-strategize. You can still think of your way out of that failure. You can think of your way out of that failure. Joseph, that story is a masterclass on life and dreams, It's a masterclass. Joseph, a young innocent boy, he had wonderful dreams. He's telling his brothers his dreams. He's telling them how, he's seeing the sun and the moon bowing for his star and what. He's seeing all these things, and his brothers are like, okay. And his father loved him more than them. He had made for him a coat of many colors, and they were jealous of him. They felt so bad. They were like, this boy, will take him down one day. We shall take him down one day. So this particular day, Joseph is taking food to the guys in the field to eat, and they decide to kill the guy. Of course, they did not kill him because one of the brothers stepped in and said, no, we can't do this. At least let us just sell him. Let us sell him off to the Ishmaelites. Let them take him back. Let's not kill the boy. So Joseph goes through a season of what seems like failure. Imagine the dreams that Joseph had, how he felt later on, seeing himself being thrown in the pit. They've stripped off his cloak. They've taken it, and they are plotting and planning to lie to the father that he's dead. They sell him off to the Ishmaelites. The Ishmaelites sell him off into in Egypt. They sell him into Potiphar's house. He gets into Potiphar's house, and it seems like things have settled now. You know that the point in life when you feel like things have now settled, and then something happens, and you go back to like, oh no, now what? Why again? Why? Another failure comes in life, and this woman, Mrs. Potiphar, wants Joseph to be, her side boyfriend, and Joseph is like, no, I cannot. Your master, my master, your husband, put me in charge of this house, and you're the only person I cannot. Everything else I can do, no. And he said no. He runs out, and the woman grabs his cloak, and then lies that he'll try to rape her. So he's thrown into prison. He's thrown another misfortune, another failure. But the beauty about this story is that every time Joseph was going through these pits and prison and what, the Bible is clear that the favor of God was on him, that God was still putting that shield of favor around him. He was putting that shield of favor around him. So he was still giving him strength in his failures, in his weaknesses. This weakness and failure that he was going through, it was not because Joseph was not doing what he was supposed to do. It is because another person was feeling bad, had envy, had these bad feelings about him, and because of his right standing with God and his respect and reverence for God, he couldn't do certain things. So he ended up in jail. But the favor of God was on the life of Joseph, that the dream finally had to manifest after many years of going through the pit and the prison, and then now he becomes prime minister when the king has a dream and there's no one to be able to give the interpretation, and Joseph is called on to give the interpretation and also the solution to the problem that they had in the land. So I want to encourage you today to not to look at failure as the end of your life. Use failure as a stepping stone, failure as a point where you can relaunch your dreams, relaunch your strategies, relaunch your goals, to re-strategize, to regroup. The coronavirus has made many companies to think differently, it is easy to say think different. In fact, Apple at some time ran an advertising campaign with the tagline think different, and they've been able to think different because of the uniqueness of their products. But when you're put in a situation and you're told think different, when life is easy, you really don't find any reason to think different. I mean, everything is going well. Why should I think different? But when failure comes at your doorstep, when challenges come, when distresses come to you, and you're pushed into thinking different, this situation we've been going through has pushed many people to think different. The coronavirus has made companies to think different. I've heard of companies that used to hire like 20 people, and because of the restrictions on movement and how many people can be in one place at the same time, they've had to see how do we continue with work without having all these people. They cut down the operations. Work still goes on the way it's supposed to go on, but in terms of the manpower, they cut down to half of that number. And then work goes on, and the way it has been happening before, and they're like, okay, why didn't we think about this before? Think about the scientific weddings. When I think about the scientific weddings, in the beginning it was a joke, like scientific wedding, what's that? But people have begun to appreciate this new way of celebrating marriage. I mean, you don't have to have 500 people. Yes, the situation has been bad. We all want our people to come together, but we can still have our celebration of marriage, and people should really be able to understand. But overall, you look at the things that you used to waste money on, and emotions. The ladies, you get animated because you've not had your exact gown in the exact fabric in the exact shade that you wanted, and you get animated, and everyone is supposed to, you think differently because of the situation that has changed, because of the failure. You begin to think differently. There is a way hard situations push us. If we really want to find solutions, they push us to find solutions. They push us to find ways of doing things differently. So I want to encourage you. Whatever failure you've encountered in life, whatever failure you've encountered in your maybe marriage, maybe in your business, maybe in your career, in your education, do not give up. Do not give up. It's not the end. It is not the end. I'll give you one more story, my own personal story. When I was at university, it was hard getting the fees and paying for, the money for the tuition. And I went through first year by faith, second year by faith, third year, oh my goodness, it was more faith. But this time around, it was hard. It was so hard, But I had faith. I believed God, and I said, you know what? There is no way I'm not finishing this degree. I told myself I have to finish this degree. So first semester, third year, I studied the entire semester. I hadn't paid a coin, but I believed God that I would do the exams. So the days towards the exams are, drawing near, closer, and I have to figure out how am I going to enter that examination room, and I have no fees paid. So the day of the exams comes, and I am not in the examination room. I'm not doing the exam. I felt so terrible. I believed to the very end. In fact, the day before the exams of my first semester, third year, I knew it. I would be in the exam room. But I went to sleep. Nothing happened. I believe for some reason, maybe an angel bring me my examination card. Maybe I believed all crazy things. Nothing happened. I felt so terrible. So terrible. I felt like this was the end, but I told myself no. My mom told me she had a friend who was very prayerful. She just told me, Faith, just go to Grace, be in prayer with her as we think of what to do. So we prayed with Grace. I prayed with that lady. Oh my goodness, I can never forget Grace. We took 2 weeks in prayer and fasting. And I had this confidence that I am going to get a job. I mean, I hadn't finished. I hadn't done my third year. And I prayed, and at the end of the 2 weeks of that prayer and fasting, New Vision at that time used to run job ads on Monday. I got a newspaper on Monday, and I said, this newspaper has my job. I read through that newspaper, found that job, applied for that job, and I got that job. Applied for the third year, and I was able to go back and finish that degree. I paid my way through that third year, and I went ahead and studied more things. Why am I telling you this story? To tell you that all of us get to a point in life where we fail. You have believed God, you have done everything you know how to do, you have given, you have prayed, you have fasted, you have sown seeds, you've done everything, and it still refuses to work out. But you do not give up on life. Life must go on. Life must go on. So we all go through failure, but I don't want us to stay in a point where we do not get up and pursue our dreams, our goals, because we failed in one area or the other. Yes, the pain may be there. There may be some things that need to be sorted out. Maybe sometime you need to go through some time of restoration, maybe prayer, counseling, but there will be a day when there will be a rainbow, when there will be sunshine, and you have to get up. So I want to encourage you. The failure you may be going through that right now, the weakness, that distress that you may be going through right now, or you went through back then but is still in you, it can end. And it ends if you decide for it to end. You make up your mind and say, enough of this. Let me see, how do I use this failure to get my life back again? How do I use this failure to get my dreams going? How do I use this failure to get my life going? So, regardless of what you've gone through, life must go on. Get up, think, re-strategize, regroup. The Bible says that when you're weak, my strength is made perfect in your weakness. That is in 2 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 10. I want you to find strength in God, to find strength in His love, to find strength in the Word, so that you may be able to get up and live your dreams. Thank you so much for listening to the Live Your Dreams radio program. Stick it here on Spirit FM. Tune in to Spirit TV. Tune into Spirit TV. Spirit TV has wonderful content out there, and I would like you to tell your friends, tell your loved ones to tune into Spirit TV, to watch the content there, so that you may be enriched in your spirit, so that you may support the work of the gospel that the team here has put out there. We thank you so much, Spirit FM, for the opportunity to use this platform to minister to the people of God. I'm really, really grateful for the team here, to Mr. Tim Sabiti, Uncle Sam, Keita Anguzu. Thank you so much, Ben Masanyu. I really want to say thank you for allowing us to minister the gospel using this platform. I love you so much. Good night, and God bless you. See you next week.
This message was brought to you by friends and partners of Perfecting the Saints Uganda. Our mission is to inspire, motivate, and cheer you to embrace the life God created you to live. For prayer, call 0750 555 340. We would also like to connect with you via our Facebook page, Perfecting the Saints Uganda. Like it and leave a comment. God bless you, and see you next week right here on 96.6 Spirit FM.